right, welcome back. So we have a new guest. This is Inside Look, and we're going to be talking about South Jersey girls basketball today with Coach Lauren Kendra. She's the head coach of Haddon Heights High School girls program. So I'd like to welcome you to our interview. How you doing, Miss Kendra? How you doing?
Doing well on this snowy morning. Thanks for having me, Mike, and thanks for doing this for South Jersey basketball.
Thanks, Coach. And I'll have to, tell everybody the joke. Like, I've known you for a number of years, and I never knew your first name was Lauren for all that time. We always knew you as Kendra. So
it's pretty common. I think I have the most common name like of the 90s. So always playing sports, there was like 3 other Laurens on my team. And since my last name's a first name, there's multiple people that don't even know my name is Lauren. So my friends call me Kendra, Kenj, my family does. So it's kind of really is my first name.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you. We're going to get started. So why don't you tell us about, where you grew up and about your family and things like that?
So I grew up in Bellmawr, New Jersey, actually right around the corner from Haddon Heights, like Devon Ave Fields over there. I went to St. Francis, which is closed now, but Catholic school right around the corner in Barrington. I have probably the best parents. I know everyone says that, but I really do. They come to all my games now. I don't think they missed a game when I played. My dad is super athletic, played a bunch of sports growing up. Always encourages me, always still calls me now about coaching. Built a court in the backyard for me growing up. I mean, always was somebody that pushed me, but never pushed me to do something I didn't want to do, like allowed me to develop my own work ethic and never stepped over bounds with my coaches, which I thought was important. But he watches every game. He lives in South Carolina. He comes up for basketball season. They're always there. My kids love him. He's a basketball junkie. And then my mom is just super, like, would get out and rebound for me, but not very athletic, but super hardworking. And like I said, just more of the nurturing, supportive side, which I think an athlete needs. You had a rough game. I'm going to make you your favorite meal. It's okay. It's always good to have them. But I'm very fortunate to have them. They're phenomenal. Wouldn't be who I am without them. And then I only have one brother. He's a year older than me. I think anybody that grew up with a brother and playing sports can relate that. I think part of my competitiveness comes from our backyard battles. I think I beat him for the first time when I was in like 6th grade in basketball, and he threw a ball at my face and I had 2 black eyes. So yeah, I think that growing up with siblings, I mean, I know you have a bunch of kids, and the competitiveness between them is something that fuels you too. So it's a little bit about me. Didn't really move far. Live in Oakland now, about 10 minutes from Haddon Heights High School. So kind of stayed where I'm from.
So what about, sports growing up and high school? So what did you play growing up, and where'd you go to high school?
I feel like I'm a little bit different than most people because I was like a late sports bloomer. I mean, I was that 6-year-old that always played soccer, and like my grandpa was real athletic, and my dad was like, "Oh my God, you're so skilled." And I think he got a little upset when I started doing dance and gymnastics. So I don't think many people know this, but I didn't start playing basketball and really like competitive soccer until like 5th or 6th grade. I was like tumbling. I can't even do a cartwheel now, so it's probably a waste of money. But I was on like the competition team. It did give me a lot of muscle. Like I was like jacked as a kid, which was kind of cool. But I broke my wrist actually doing a backflip. And I was like, I don't really know if I want to do this anymore. And my dad was like, well, why don't you start like playing basketball? So we started like playing. I didn't really play until I was in like 5th or 6th grade. So a little bit of a late bloomer, but then I started playing basketball. I always played soccer. They were my 2 loves. And that was it. I kind of gave up the gymnastics and just started rolling with it.
Wow. And then, so, you went to Catholic grade school. You went to Catholic high school at Gloucester Catholic. So tell us about, what it was like to play for Lisa.
It was amazing. Like I remember coming in as a freshman and I was scared to death of her. She's so intense and so passionate and so knowledgeable. I mean, obviously she's just one of the most highly respected coaches, and for a reason. She has so much knowledge and so much intensity still. Like I coached with her when I first got out into the coaching world, and from the time I had her till now, I mean, she is the most intense person at practice I've ever seen. And she's caring and she's passionate, and that was the right move for me. I actually went to Gloucester Catholic because my friends were going there. My family's Eustis people.
Yeah.
So I'm the only person to go to Gloucester Catholic. and I don't regret it at all. It was the best decision for me. Even though we lost to Bishop Eustace in the states when I was a junior and they won a state title, we lost by like a point, I think. It was heartbreaking, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, Gloucester Catholic, any school, I think that you have a good community of people is what makes it the best. And Gloucester Catholic's community and what Lisa has done, I mean, Chrissy, Cheryl, me, Chris Hill, we're all out there coaching. And it's just like, I didn't play with Cheryl, I didn't play with Chrissy, but even like seeing Chrissy when we played her this week, or obviously I see Cheryl a lot. You just have a respect for everyone. And it's almost like you share this commonality that is like innately great. Like, it's just like you have this intensity in you from that.
Yeah, I think it definitely shapes you as a player, and then kind of ties into your coaching. So, after Gloucester Catholic, tell us a little bit about college and what it was like to play sports in college, and then what made you get into coaching.
Yeah, so I don't think I ever considered being a coach. I was always a point guard. I love the X's and O's of the game. Until my senior year, I actually tore my ACL playing soccer, so I sat out the entire season my senior year. And I actually remember calling Lisa, and I was afraid to tell her because I knew she'd be upset. And she was so kind. And then she told me later she hung up the phone and started like screaming, like she was upset. But she allowed me to really help. And like I sat down and I watched her, and I was like, what she does is like insane. I was like, oh my God, I learned so much sitting there in that year that I don't know if I tore my ACL, if I didn't tear my ACL, if I would be a coach. That was kind of when I was like, you know what, I want to do this. I want to do what she does. I want to, work around the adversity of everything and teach kids things. It was just like, when you sit there, you see it from a different perspective of than when you're on the court. So that kind of sparked my interest in coaching. I played basketball at King's College in Wilkes Barre, had a great experience there. I loved the coach there. He left after my freshman year. I went to VCU and then was the coach of Mount St. Mary's for a long time. But he was someone I think that also encouraged me to coach because Lisa's intensity and X's and O's are phenomenal. And his phenomenal part was that, but he was also phenomenal at building a community. He still sends me a card every first day of practice to the high school. I mean, and that just to me, like blending those two together made me think like, I want to do this. So I think taking a little bit of like everybody that's impacted me as a player really made me want to coach. And I think playing in college, anything is great for kids. I mean, I wanted to play, I didn't know if I wanted to play soccer or basketball. I was equally like good at both, had looks for both, tore my ACL, picked Kings too, because I went to a tournament the day after I tore my ACL. I didn't know it was torn. And I tried to play basketball and I made it from like the circle to the foul line before it just like gave out. And he called me that night. He was at the game and he was like, I don't care if your knee is bad. Like, I still want you to come. And he's like, I just want to make sure you're okay. And that to me just stuck with me, that he like throw everything else out the window and just be like, you know what, I want someone like that. So I try and model that too.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I think it's nice because, you have a lot of different influences and it makes you into that coach that you are. So you take, the best from here, you take the best from here, and now you make your own style. And I have to say that Lisa's awesome. I mean,
Phenomenal.
How many years Kim and Cheryl been out of school, and they came to my mother-in-law's funeral. Her and Annette came to my father-in-law's funeral. I mean, they're still about family. Like, to me, once you play for her, you're part of her family. And that's one of the nicest things that I've ever, experienced with the coaches, that she just loves her. She loves her kids. She loves her.
Absolutely. And I think it's obviously evident that she coaches for the right reasons too, because she sticks with it no matter what talent she has. And if you know Lisa on a personal level like I do, I mean, she's in it for the right reasons. She's in it to help kids. She's in it to, get them prepared for the real world. My high school was harder than my college, my practices. I mean, it's just like she just does it for all the right reasons. And she's a great mentor to so many people. And I would agree. Mary was 2 when I was there. She was like my best friend. I got her a little frame when I left. She slept over at my house, was her first sleepover. I mean, and then I'm sitting at Villanova on her senior night. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just such a cool dynamic. Maggie McIntyre just texted me the other day. Like, it's just like, it's people that you don't even play with. It's just like a cool family atmosphere. And I mean, I don't think that's necessarily just because it's a Catholic school, small school. I think that's because of the leadership it has, which is her and obviously the community there. So that's part of what I try and bring to Heights is, something that people want to come back to and are proud of.
Yeah, that's cool, because we'll talk about that later with, because we were talking about that live stream. So, all right. Now, I think you had a different route to becoming a teacher than most people, because you told me earlier that you studied biology. So why don't you talk about, what you studied in school and then how you ended up becoming a teacher? Because I'm sure there's other, players out there. They're trying to figure out like, all right, I'm going to go to school. I know I want to play basketball. I love playing the sport, but now I have to get myself set up for a career. And, sometimes you get on a different path and then you decide, it's not for you and you do something different. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think another thing about my dad that's really cool is he always instilled in me, especially as a female, and I try and do this with my players, is like you should never depend on anybody else. Do you know what I mean? You're just as good as everybody else. You should be able to support yourself, and do everything that you want to do. So I actually went to school for biology and neuroscience, so I love science. I thought maybe, I wanted to be a doctor, and then I was really interested in being a lawyer. So I actually, after school, took a job as like a paralegal at a law firm, took my LSATs, got into a bunch of law schools. And I think there was a blizzard and I was in the law firm in Philly. And I was like, you know what? Like, I would not be happy working in this office. And I feel like just because I do well in school and I'm intelligent, I had all these people telling me, like, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. And for a long time I listened. And I was like, you know what? I really want to teach and coach. And I want to teach and coach. And I'm so glad I threw that out the window. So many people were like, you're not going to make any money. You're not going to do anything. And I'm like, all right. So I went to Rowan and got my master's degree in teaching, in education. That was a great experience. And then I got a job at Lindenwold teaching and coaching. And it's just kind of history. And I love my job. This is my 10th year teaching. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I work another job outside of teaching. It is what it is, but I'm a hard worker and I go to work happy. So I'd rather do that, make $1 million. I have a lot of kids that want to be teachers that I coached. Your niece wants to be a teacher. So, I mean, like you just try and encourage kids that you can make it work. And if you're passionate about it, like I said, and I love it. And I think you're meant to do things. And I think people pick up on that. And I would probably be a good lawyer and a good doctor, but I don't think that you'd pick up on like the passion that I have.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's kind of how I ended up teaching and coaching.
you gotta just follow your dreams, and if you're not happy with what you're doing, I think your life's not going to be the greatest. But if you're enjoying every single day, like if you can wake up and be excited to go to work, which a lot of people aren't, I mean, I think that makes a big difference in your life, the way you treat other people. It's just your attitude in general, and your mental well-being. So talk about now, you graduated from college, now you're a teacher. Talk about how you got started with coaching and how you ended up at Haddon Heights.
Yeah, so I actually started coaching my first year teaching. I was helping Lisa out. I wasn't really the JV coach yet. And then I was coaching 7th and 8th grade at Lindenwold because they needed a coach. And honestly, when I look back on coaching, that was one of my favorite years of coaching. I'm in my office right now. I think if I turn it, you can see like the yellow thing is their gift to me. From that one year with those kids, we won one game. It was our last game of the year. And it was just like, but it was like the best experience ever. I still see some of those kids. I still talk to them. And it was just like a great experience. They were just kids that really never played before and wanted to learn. And like winning that last game is still one of my favorite coaching moments of like my whole time. I mean, it was just like the kids were so happy. It just was like great. But after that year, Lisa had an opening as a JV coach. So for, me, I felt like that was the right move. Gloucester Catholic's always been my home. Was with her, I want to say for 3 or 4 years as a JV coach and the assistant coach. And then started applying for, going on a couple interviews. Lisa encouraged me. She's like, I think you're ready to coach. I trust you. You could literally do this. So why don't you go on a couple of interviews? She was getting me them. And I was like, all right. And then I actually told her I'm not going to accept a job unless I feel like it's somewhere I want to be. And she agreed because I was happy at Gloucester Catholic. I wasn't someone that wanted a head coaching job just because it was available and I could get one. So went in for Heights, got the job, really liked The AD really liked the atmosphere. I mean, I grew up around the neighborhood. I know it. Not a traditional basketball school, but I grew up when they were great. When Kenny Hamburger was there and Meredith Kennedy, I mean, they were killing. I played. I was a junior when that kid was a freshman, and they were a tough team. But I liked the diversity of Heights. I liked the small school. I liked the 4 towns. It was 3 at the time. Now we're 4. So I just felt it was a good fit. It was close to home, and I've been there for 7 years.
All right, that's great. So tell us about your coaching philosophy. So what did you pick up from the different coaches you worked with to kind of like, form your own thing? So, tell us a little about your coaching philosophy and style, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So my number one philosophy is I try and be someone that I definitely care about the kids, but I need to show them that I care about them. And I think that's my number one goal is, I don't care. I do care about winning and losing. I'm not going to lie, but I'm really competitive, but I care about them growing up as people, knowing that I'm always there for them. I mean, I've had kids that literally have called me at all hours of the night to help with something that's not basketball related. And I think if you get kids to let you know that they care, they're more likely to work harder for you. I watched the Doc Rivers documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you watched it on Playbook, and I even showed my team it. And he says, like, anybody that tells you not to get close to your players is wrong, because they are going to disappoint you, and they have disappointed me in life, in school. Like I see them in school and basketball, but you don't not do it because you're going to be disappointed. Do you know what I mean? I think the payoff is way better. So my number one philosophy is caring about the kids as people, not just about helping me get wins and losses in our team. And then I'm also pretty intense. They showed me this TikTok the other day. They're goofballs. Where it was like this coach on a TikTok, and it was like, what style are you? And Mo Richardson Muse has it up, and she's like, that's definitely you. And it was like this passive aggressive coach. And I was like, really, Mo? She's like, yeah, you're always like, what could we do better? What do you like? What do you think happened? Like, I'm not as direct as other people because I try and teach them the game, and I try and make them, it's their team too. I'm not just the leader of the team. And that's also my philosophy. I try not to say like my team, our team. So I'm constantly asking them questions. Who do you felt was the X factor in the game? Who do you think hustled the most? What could we have done better? So involving them as much as I can, and then getting them to play together. Like I said, I'm in a unique situation because they come from 4 different towns. So they don't play together from the time they're 7. Some of these kids meet each other in 9th grade. So getting them to accept people from different places, different realms of life, and realizing that we're in it together and everybody gives something is also another goal of mine.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So let's talk about what was the team like before you took it over, and what was it like in your early career as far as from a coaching standpoint?
Well, when I came, I don't know if you remember, but South Jersey basketball, Tyler Reisner transferred from Trenton Catholic. She's a lawn side girl. She transferred her senior year back. So she left the year before I came, played at Rhode Island, and so did Naja Riggs, the leading scorer, until Ashley Reynolds came along. And they left, and it was kind of like, they're the 2 people. They're playing Division II, Division I basketball. Cramp was like, our AD was like, you have this good kid as a freshman. You have kids that are athletes, but they were like the number 1. So when I walked in, I was like, okay, Ashley's definitely talented. You could see that right away. We have athletes, and I had kids that really wanted to learn. Like that crew we won a South Jersey title with them. I was like, I think it was my 3rd year, my 2nd year with them coaching. They were so into like getting better and we can do this, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, it started with Ashley's work ethic. Being our best player was bar none one of the best I've ever seen. They liked each other, and they had a passion to show people that even without these 2 kids, like we're here. And they were gritty, man. They hate that word because I say it all the time, but they were like not basketball players, but they were all over the place. Like they were phenomenal. So I think walking into them was a good start. I think a lot of people would give like me credit, and I give them credit because they already were. We have the most accepting, inclusive kids around, I would say, and they already had that. Like they really are a unit, cohesive. So I walked into a very young team, very young, no experience besides Ashley Reynolds, only starter back as a sophomore. And they actually beat Sterling, who had like Jordan Wallace in overtime that year. And I would say that was the turning point of like them being like, oh my God, we could do this. Like we really can compete and we need to work and get better. And they did. So yeah, ever since then, I feel like those kids have set such a great foundation for other kids in our program. Like Ashley took people under their wing that just graduated last year and they're still friends. So like I said, it's kind of like the GC thing. You know, I might not have played with you, but I know you and I'm going to help and be around as much as I can. So I couldn't be more happy with where I am. Like I said, we're not traditionally a basketball school. I have in my starting lineup this year, I have 4 kids that are going to play college sports and other sports. And that's okay. They're out here and they're good kids. And a lot of the time it's their secondary sport, but they work hard and they care about each other and they get better. So.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I mean, I say this all the time. Like, basketball is just in that like dead zone of time. You know, if you're a soccer player, you use the winter time to train and get in shape for your sport. Or if you're a lacrosse player, you know, that's the conditioning, that's the strengthening, that's the skill work in order to take it to, you know, the next level. So I think basketball is kind of tough. And I think also too, for me, I realized that basketball skills are way more difficult.
Yeah, the hand-eye coordination in basketball, you could probably be a great athlete, and I'm not knocking soccer, and go out in the soccer field and make an impact.
Yeah.
The coordination to dribble a basketball, to pass, the like athletic ability it takes to see the play, to play defense, be in the right spots. I mean, it's really hard to pick it up in high school and then go with it. There's very few people that can. There are some, but it's not easy.
It's the pace of the play because there's really no plays off. Even when you don't have the ball, you're involved in the play. Like you can't space off and take, you know, a minute break because by that time, you know, you already hurt your team so much. So you really have to be involved. I mean, it's intense, meaning that you like, you know, there's really no breaks except for if there's, you know, the ball goes out of bounds or if you have free throws or there's timeout. So I think that's why people like the game of basketball, especially if you're a competitor.
My favorite thing about it, I tell my kids, I'm like, basketball is my favorite thing because if I mess up 5 seconds later, I have a chance to redeem myself and everyone forgets about it. You know what I mean? If I mess up in softball, I might not bat again till like another 2 innings.
Yeah.
So my favorite thing about it is the fast pace. And I actually tell them that all the time. Like you shouldn't be upset because you can go right back at it. Soccer, you might not get another shot for 30 minutes. You know, you missed it. So it's like, it's probably the coolest thing about the game.
I think the other thing too is you have a direct impact because there's only 5 players on the court at a time. Like you are a really important part of what's going on the court. So you can have a major impact, even if it's just rebounding, defending, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, just doing your part so the other players can work in the offense. I mean, you can really make a difference. And I think that's another reason why, you know, kids who are competitors just love to play the game. So let's talk about, you know, last year and how things went, and then let's transition to this year. So, you know, how was your season? How did your season go last year?
Last year we were 13-15, which I thought was great for us for the talent we have. I feel like I'm not an unrealistic coach at all, and I don't give the kids unrealistic expectations. We had a little bit of a tough year because we had 2 ACL injuries, one to a senior and one to Evie Davis, who was my best defender, returning starter, didn't play at all, like tore it in the summer. And then we also had an injury to Jessie Kinky, who was a huge senior. She didn't play for half the year. So we were way, way undermanned. I had a point guard with like no experience as a senior because she's been injured. I have 2 sophomores out there and a freshman, and then throwing whoever else I could in. So my goal last year was to stay competitive, which they were, and to get like my Maddie Clark, my Maggie Campbell, and my Mo Richardson Muse, who I knew needed experience in game situations and getting better. And I think it paid off. It really did. I didn't play an easy schedule. I'm not someone that's my philosophy either. So I got those kids to battle with other kids that I knew would make them better.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is now you can see the growth and development. You know, because you don't play a difficult schedule. You know, when you have the players that are ready to play, you can't see their growth. You can't see their improvement. So when you play those teams, then you play them again the following year, you're like, oh, okay, we have gotten better. You know,
yeah.
I think it's tighter.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely worth it. I'm not someone that worries about my record. If you ask me, I only knew that record because I had to look it up for last year. Every year for the paper, I have to message my friend. Like it's not something that I focus on. I'm more focused on, are the kids getting better? Are we reaching goals that we have? And it's really paid off. Our schedule last year, even in this shortened season, has paid off. Just for, like I said, those three returners have all taken leaps and bounds forward in their own regard. So definitely paying off.
That's great. So here you are now. It's 2021. Things are definitely different. I mean, we were just talking about it earlier. You know, you're limited by a couple things. Number one, all the COVID restrictions. Number two, that you have a short window to get all of your games in. And then number three, you only have a certain number of games you're allowed to play max. So, I mean, if you lose a game here or there, which has happened, you know, it kind of hurts you. Because didn't you say that you were supposed to have a conference tournament and then that got canceled? So how are you managing, you know, all this?
Yeah, I mean, trying to preach to the kids, no matter how much I'm panicking inside. And I'm learning a lot too as a teacher, as a coach during this. I'm very like schedule based. That we can only control what we can control. I mean, we can control when we get to play on the floor that we're going to play hard. We can't control what's going to happen. Honestly, it could happen 2 hours before game time. It could happen when we're at the game. But I think they know how lucky they are to be on the floor. I reiterated it yesterday after our sixth game. I'm like, guys, you've played 6 games. Some people haven't played any, right? Like, let's be thankful we're here. You know, I gave them the COVID lecture. It's Super Bowl weekend. We need to be safe. We need to be smart. So it's definitely something different, like to tell them that they can only really hang out with our team. I'm pretty lucky because our team is pretty much friends anyway. I feel like they've done a great job of it. But it's definitely different. Like you said, the practices, I think I was telling you, we played Wednesday, Friday, Saturday this week, right? We had a practice on Thursday because it snowed Monday, Tuesday. So our games got canceled. We play Monday and Tuesday of next week. So I had one practice for 4 games.
Yeah.
But I had a Zoom meeting with the kids during the snow, and I was very honest with them. I said, you know, I don't think I'd put you in a situation that I didn't think you could handle. I want to play these games. You know, I want to play Shawnee. They can fit it in now. Do you guys want to play? It's a lot in 5 days. And they were like, no, we want to play. So like that to me was like, okay, you know, we can do this. And I'd rather them play than practice. And you just kind of gotta, like I was telling you, you gotta kind of teach them on the fly. Like you're putting things in on the fly. Yesterday we had to press to get back in the game. We haven't gone over a press yet because we're just getting in shape. And I thought they did a phenomenal job. I mean, so it's just little things like that. But you know what? Telling them too, everyone's in the same boat. So that's comforting. It's not like it's just us. It's not like it's just someone else. And like I said, I feel like so far we've been very fortunate to play our games. And I'm just hopeful that, you know, everyone can get 15 in. It's super difficult to find games sometimes, but we had 3 openings because our conference tournament, after the first week, they realized that like we need those weeks to make up games.
Yeah.
There's no, because we had a lot of Colonial Conference teams, boys and girls, in quarantine to start, and they didn't think it was fair or accurate, which I agree with. Just, you know, if you want everyone to play 15, that shouldn't be the focus this year. So we had to pick up 3 games. So we picked up Shawnee, we picked up Eastern, and we picked up Washington Township. So it's been good.
Yeah, the nice thing is you get to go to the Olympic conference and play some different teams.
Yeah.
I know you told me that your schedule are basically back to back.
Yeah. In the Colonial.
With Colonial. So
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
you play like we play like Monday, Tuesday, we play Haddon Township, Monday home, away Tuesday at Haddon Township.
wow. I mean,
It's
that's
definitely
good.
weird,
Yeah,
but it works for COVID scheduling. Because like I said, people got shut down. You can just swap the games. So your 2 games aren't affected. Do you know what
right.
I mean? So you can play 2 games versus someone that's not in quarantine.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's like making those adjustments, and I guess you know you'll have a lot of film to go over.
yeah.
You do actually get to practice. When's your next practice? Wednesday?
Yeah. And then we play Thursday. So it's
Oh,
like then we get a little bit of a break. We were like Friday, Saturday, Monday, pending snow. I mean, so it's just, you know, 2021 is just this control what you can control. That's what I keep telling them.
yeah. That sounds crazy, but you know what? Honestly, I think the kids would rather be playing and
Oh,
out there than sitting home and doing nothing. You know, like this is
and
giving
they'd
them.
rather play than practice. So especially with the shortened season,
Yeah.
I mean, they want to play. So like my goal is, and our AD's goal is to get them their 15 games, and then, you know, anything else is a bonus. If we have a week left, we're going to practice. You know, we may not play the last week, but at least they'll be in the weight room. They'll be practicing. So they're happiest when they're on the floor together. And I mean, let's be honest, that's really what it's about this year. So they're the happiest at practice I've ever seen them. They're the hardest working I've ever seen them at practice this year. I think it's somewhat normal for them. They don't have to wear a mask. Do you know what I mean? It is different. They can't stay, like you said. I have to take their temperature. I'm sure they have to fill out this stuff. But I think once they get going, it's some form of normal for them. And I mean, even for me, for my mental health, after our first practice, I was like, I didn't realize how much I missed this. Like, it's kind of like when you're in the flow of basketball season, it gets hectic. So you're often like, is this worth it? I have a life. This is crazy. I love these kids, but it's a long season. And when we got back on the first floor, I was like, okay, this is like, it was like Christmas. I mean, it was great.
Yeah. I actually like the fact that there's a lot of games.
Me too.
Personally, because like if you have a loss, you don't have much time to like think about it. You don't have like a weekend or 5 days. Like you have another game coming up in a day or two. Cherokee lost on Thursday to Paul VI. Friday they were back out in the court. I mean, they have a short memory now, so I like that aspect, and I think it makes it easier for the players and the coaches too, because if you have a shortened season, now you don't have to dedicate all of Thanksgiving time, December, January, February into March. I mean, it's just so long.
Yeah.
Tough on the families and the kids. This is what
Yeah.
you play all your games, you have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the future, I think maybe they should look at shortening the season, keeping it extended with the games, but make the window smaller, play more games in the week. It'd be great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we lost Friday to Shawnee, and then at night, and then we woke up at 7:30, went to West Effort the next day. I mean, the kids were happy to play. Like, it's just like, so it is a different dynamic. It's a cool dynamic. And definitely, it can get long in basketball season, especially with practices in a normal year.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about it too is now you realize that you can schedule games like on the fly, like where before it seemed like to me like our schedule's locked. We have no flexibility. We can't do anything. Like we already set in stone. But now like you have to get a game in 48 hours or by the end of the week, because you need that you have the empty time and you only have so many weeks to do it. So I think it's better, and I think it's good for the game, and I think it's the programs are getting more flexible and they're more willing to reach out to other teams too. So I think the communications is definitely getting better.
Yeah, I would agree.
I want to get back to your team. So why don't you talk about like what are your goals this year, for your girls? I know you talked about just going out there and competing all the time, but have you set some like goals at the beginning of the season that you want the girls to try and work on?
Yeah, our goal is, like, since we are playing people back to back too, I told them it's a good time for us to be like, can we make adjustments? Even if we beat them the first time, we need to beat them the second time. I mean, so I love our conference. I love the coaches in our conference. Our conference is notoriously competitive with each other, kind of like, the Olympic conference. We're just smaller schools, but we have great coaches in the Colonial Conference. And I just told my kids that I really think they can compete in our conference this year. And they absolutely can. So one of our goals is to make sure that we win our conference games, we stay competitive with those. And then the other goal is to make sure we get better. I mean, that's the goal. There's no playoffs this year. There's nothing like that for them to go for. But I told them, like, we need to get better. My team is young. I have everybody back next year in my starting lineup. They need to grow and they need to learn this year. If not, it's going to be a waste of a year. So I just told them they need to compete. They need to be like, play like they're thankful to be out here. And they are. They've done a great job so far with energy, with competing. They haven't got blown out by anybody. And just getting better. We're a better defensive team than we were starting 3 weeks ago. I mean, we were struggling. And now we're getting there. So I think that progression, and this year when we do practice, honestly, this has been my philosophy for a couple years with the kids that I have that aren't basketball kids. We've done a lot of skill work, and it's really paid off. Kids are doing post moves that we've been teaching them. They're making moves, they're making entry passes, and they're excited about it because they've like took something and applied it. So, I mean, that's our goal, is to be competitive. Not really concerned about, rankings or anything like that. We're kind of staying within our bubble. I don't really know if rankings are valid this year anyway. With COVID, I mean, it's not fair. People don't have people when you play them. It's
right.
Back-to-back games, it makes an impact. But I want them to overcome adversity. We've talked about too, this is not a normal year. How are you going to react to it? And they've done a good job. They're going to do it together. That's kind of been our philosophy, is we're going to do it together. Everybody's important. I didn't keep a lot of kids this year, not for COVID reasons, because I just thought it was better for our team to get the kids we have in a competitive atmosphere all the time. And they've been really great with each other. Everybody, my JV kids are improving, my varsity kids. So, I mean, it's just a good dynamic we have going on right now.
That's great. So tell us about your team. I know that you have some new pieces. You've gotten some younger kids, players coming in, and you graduated some seniors. So tell us about the makeup of your team, and what's your strengths as a team?
Yeah, so we're young. Like I said, we start 3 juniors, a sophomore and a freshman. We come from, I have 2 Heights, 2 Barrington, 1 lawn-sized kid. So it's like this whole mix of kids that didn't play with each other growing up. So we need to get them to gel on the floor, and that's a goal of ours too. But we do have a good mix of kids. I mean, I think the strength of our team is our balance. Any night anybody could score 15 plus, but any night my starting 5 is going to give me 8 to 10 each, which is going to win you a lot of games. I mean, they can all score. They're all competitive kids. And like I said, they've bought into, like, it's not about me. It's not about my stats. It's not about, anybody else's stats. It's about, did we win the game? And they've actually been shocking me in that regard. I got a message from one of my starters yesterday, from Mo Richardson-Muse, and she said, Coach, she was our leading scorer in the game, made the huge basket at the end of the game, and she goes, Coach, Evie's defense was the reason why we won the game. Like, just the fact that they are acknowledging other people tells me that they're buying in. We have this in Butu logo. They finally learned how to say it, which is another Doc Rivers thing, which is kind of like, I'm who I am because of everybody around me. So, like, if Maggie is sprinting in sprints, like, she's notoriously our first person, I'm not like, oh my God, Maggie, why are you running so fast? I'm like, I'm going to catch up to Maggie, and I'm going to push myself as hard as her. So I think they've really bought into it. Minutes ago in the game, it came out of Mo's mouth, that word. She's like, we're going to win this. We're going to win it together. And I think that's the beauty of the 5 kids that I have, and our bench and everybody, is they are about each other. And that's rare. They don't really care about anything else besides winning. They're competitive kids. They want to learn. They want to get better. I mean, we have Mo and Maddie Clark down low, who are a tough group to defend. Mo is about 75% from around the basket. She's not going to miss when she's down there. And Maddie's just so strong and getting better by the day. I mean, she's improved so much. You have Maggie Campbell, who's our leader on the floor vocally. Evie Davis, who missed last year with an ACL injury, but started as a freshman. Insane athlete, defender. And then I have a freshman point guard who is honestly exceeding my expectations. I knew the kid was competitive. I knew she was skilled. She's so coachable, but she is literally taking care of the ball. She's our energy. And she's just going to get better. So I think the fact that they embrace young kids, they've always been this way. They're not like, oh, you're taking my spot. They know, that they make us better. And I think that is super important when you're trying to get a team of kids together where I know they care about each other. And if they lose, we all lose. Like, that's it. If we win, we all win. And they've really bought into it. And I think it's only going to take them further and further.
Yeah, and I think it sets them up for life. I mean, these are life lessons. And, one of the hardest things is to gel with people from different towns, different backgrounds, different races, whatever. And I think, that's why, like, I love the game of basketball, because you got people from everywhere and anywhere. And now you're putting them on a court to play, and they have to find something, to get it going. But the one thing they have in common is the love for the game, and they all want to compete. They all want to do well. So it's a matter of figuring out how to get it to gel. And I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think most people know this about our team either, but like Mo Richardson-Muse, who's like been one of our key impactors since a freshman, she moved to Lawnside after her 8th grade year. So like her family moved, she knew no one coming into school, like no one whatsoever. And she is now like best friends with our kids on our team. She is one of the funniest kids you'll ever meet. I mean, she puts a smile on everyone's face. And it's just like the fact that our kids are so embracing of everybody is a testament to them, their families. I mean, these kids really embrace everything. They're passionate about everything going on in the world. If you've ever seen our warm-up jerseys, it says we rise together with a bunch of different representations on there. They were out in the spring when I was out for all these rallies. I was shocked. I didn't know they were going, and they were at all the towns, at least 5 of my kids. I mean, they're just great kids. They do well in school. They're very aware of what's going on. And I think they don't even realize the impact they have on people just by, them being so accepting. And that is something we talk about too. So.
Yeah, that's cool. And the nice thing for me is I love watching the team, obviously, because of Maddie. But, when I was coming up, when Gabby was coming up, I coached Evie. And you know what the funny thing was? One time we were at a party, like a team party, and they're like, they said this name. I'm like, who's that? Is Evangeline? I'm like, who's Evangeline? Evangeline, who's Evangeline? They're like, that's Evie. I'm like, duh.
I didn't know that until I taught her and saw it on my roster. So
yeah, like, who's Evangeline? I don't know who this person is. So she was fun to watch, and playing on the soccer field, like I told you stories, like she would come up on as a back. She was I think either left or right. I don't even remember. But she would come up the field and she would literally people would bounce off her. Funniest thing is, if you know her, she's the nicest person. She's
nice.
So, she'll probably stop, pick the kid up, help them up, and then keep on going because she's that type of person.
Yeah.
Maggie Campbell, she was awesome playing up top in soccer. Really aggressive. I mean, I have this one picture. It's in my office, and it's this one year before Gabby started playing with Maggie. Barrington and Haddon Heights went against each other in the state cup, and it's Gabby and Maggie Campbell that are on each other. I think Gabby's trying to defend against Maggie Campbell. It's these little things stick out in my head. Kylie was another Barrington kid, and she played with the program. She was a little bit younger, but she guested with us. Coming up. I mean, so it's fun. I mean, to see these kids now having success. I mean, we have a bunch of kids that she grew up with and played with their different schools like Collingswood, Haddonfield, Haddon Township. I mean, that was the nice thing is you meet these kids from all these different towns. And that's the one thing that I would love to do for basketball. I would love to see it. I'm going to talk about it later, but how do we get these kids from these different towns like you're doing, but on a grander scale with maybe Camden County, with Burlington County, with the whole South Jersey, and say, hey, let's get together. Let's let these kids play. Let's let these kids, meet other kids and have fun. And, let's grow the community, because I would love to see, us go to different kids' games. I mean, one thing I would love to do is I'd love to go to the Palestra and watch, some local basketball. Let's take the kids to the University of Penn and cheer on a couple of the kids, because you have Kamari Reynolds from South Jersey at Manchester. You're going to have Mariana Papazoglu, who's going to be, at Penn next year. I mean, you have all these players. We can go to Rowan, and we could watch Grace Marshall. You know what I mean? We can go to Stockton and watch Adriana Jennings. I mean, I just saw that they just had their first game, and she killed it out there. There's a lot of talent, and these kids need to see what's out there, different levels, but just seeing South Jersey in action and kind of inspire them. And we did it when they were little. They would go to the high schools and play. We have to do it when they're in high school now. We got to go to the college level. Go to Villanova. I mean, it's too bad Mary graduated, but we can watch Bella Runyon. I mean, there's kids all over. And I know I'm forgetting kids and not mentioning them, but that's just something to do.
So I've always been a believer in following them in college. So I took Mo with me last year to a couple games. Ashley Reynolds and me went all over. If I have a kid who I know is a gym rat, especially people that we played against, I've always taken kids, because I'm a big believer in it too, is you have to see it to be it. I mean, if you really want to play, here's this kid that came from here and you played against them and look where they are. So yeah, I'm definitely a believer in that. I think it's important that everybody supports the South Jersey community, no matter if you're rivals, who you're from. Any kid playing from South Jersey should get recognition from South Jersey. I mean, I follow Baines at Virginia Tech. I follow Watson at Oregon. I follow BC because our Gloucester Catholic kids are there. I went to Niagara to watch Maggie play. I mean, it's just, I feel like you have to support the kids because that's what it's about too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, when you support those kids, I mean, they're more likely to want to come back and also give back to the community and to the next generation. And I think that's also the keys. When you're doing something in the summertime, try to get some of these college kids to come play with you. You know what I mean? And just mentor the kids a little bit. And then they can talk to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about playing in college. What do you think about it? Or you can have a girl that goes up to a kid and says, hey, I think you're a really good player. Have you thought about playing in college? I think you'd
Yeah.
be,
So I know we talked before I came. I like Tyler and Naja were there.
yeah,
Tyler's been in with my team on multiple occasions, talking
yeah,
about what it means to be a Division I athlete, even an athlete in general in college. Naja played D2, came home and played for Stockton and did a great job. Naja works for NFL Film. So if you've seen our media on Twitter, she's been back doing our media. She's at the Super Bowl right now.
that's
I mean, I
awesome.
just think keeping them around our kids to show them like, hey, I went to Haddon Heights. Do you know what I mean? I've done this, and what it is. Like Tyler's giving great insight to recruiting for the kids, to what you need in all sports, not just basketball. I mean, I have, like I said, a lot of kids that are going to play soccer. Maddie's a softball kid. And just what it takes and what her knowledge of, keeping a scholarship in college, because it's not guaranteed, and keeping it working as hard as you can, and you're going to overcome adversity. So I think hearing from kids that are from your school and that have succeeded is super important for the kids to hear.
Yeah, I definitely believe in that. So who are your captains this year?
My captains are, I only have one senior, and that's Victoria Speakman. She's normally this first, second person off our bench, and honestly, she's been great. I think she leads in a way of, I might be a senior, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm starting. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm this huge impact player, but I'm going to work hard and I'm going to give what I have when I'm out there. So as our only senior, she was our only junior last year. She deserves it. I mean, it's not easy to be the only one in your class playing a sport. And then I had Maggie Campbell, who, when I asked my kids to vote, I always pick two and let my kids pick the third. Um, Maggie would have been my top of my list, and she got a vote from every kid on our team, which says a lot.
Yeah.
She is somebody that just hustles. She's matured a lot. She responds to coaching well. I mean, she's just responsible, and she's somebody that I think the kids look up to and will listen to. And she's vocal. So I mean, like she's vocal enough to where she'll get people where they need to go. She'll speak up. And then I have Mo Richardson Muse, who has come such a long way. I'm so proud of this kid. So talented in her own regard. I mean, she's just great, basketball wise, but she's come a long way maturity wise. I mean, she's always been someone, she's better with coaching. The kids look up to her too. And she cares about everybody. And like I said, Mo is somebody that if her smile lights up a room, her personality lights up a room. She's the goofiest kid you'll ever meet, but she's somebody that works hard and wants to win. And like I said, I just think I'm just so proud of her maturity too. Like we talked about, you try and teach kids life lessons. We're big believers in, we support other teams. So if somebody is hurt or someone has a tragic event, we do something for the kid. So when we played West Effort last, one of their best players fell on her wrist. I had to go leave and get an x-ray. Thank God it wasn't broken. And Mo texted me before a game. I didn't tell him it wasn't broken. And she said, Coach, you need me to go get a card for her, which I thought was just like a great growth moment for her, that she was even thinking about that. So she's come a long way. I think she knows that she's our go-to player. Big games, we need her. And I think she's starting to thrive in that role. And I think she's someone that, like I said, just puts a smile on everyone's face. And that's irreplaceable. I mean, she's going to work hard, but then she's going to do some random dance in the middle of his play, and everyone's just going to be like, okay. So, I mean, those three are our captains for those reasons. But I always tell people, just because you're not a captain doesn't mean you don't lead. Maddie and Kylie are our leaders with hustle. I mean, they are on the floor at all times. They are gamers. They're going to play no matter who we're playing. They're not afraid. They want the ball in their hands. And I think that's a leadership thing too. I don't care if Kylie's a freshman and Maddie's a sophomore. They're not afraid of anyone. And you can tell it by their demeanor. You can tell it by the way they play. I mean, they're up for big games. And I think that radiates with other people too. So just because you're not a captain doesn't mean you don't lead. And our bench is great. My role players are great, like I said. And I think they're just such a close-knit group of kids. And I'm biased, but I think I have the best kids in South Jersey because, like I said, they do really care about each other. They care about their schoolwork. They care about being good people. And you couldn't really ask for more.
Yeah. So, finishing up, what do you think are the keys to success for your team this year? So what are some things that your team needs to do in order to be successful, to compete and have an opportunity to win that game? So what are some things that you focus on with your team?
I think it's just getting them to play to their strengths, play together. And I think it's getting them, honestly, the mental part of the game. They're so young. Like yesterday, we were down 8 going into a fourth quarter. And, I was like, guys, I'm not worried. Let's take it possession by possession. Let's take care of the ball. We're not going to panic. We're not going to relax, or we're not going to panic. We're not going to go fast, right? We're going to play within ourselves. And they did a phenomenal job. So I think just taking those growth moments, and then working with them, getting them better skill wise, but that's irreplaceable for playing a game. And they were great together. Keeping them together is going to be the number one thing, because they're athletes, man. They are, like I said, they're not basketball players, but they're athletes and they're competitors, and they do have some basketball skill. So we have the right pieces because we are so balanced. I don't know if anybody is as balanced as us in our conference. It's not saying we're going to win every game, but we have a threat in every position. And that to them makes them good. And they know that. They know they're not good without the person next to them. And I think in that going, and we're going to hit bumps in the road. We're going to drop games. It's going to happen. It happens. But we have to bounce back, and we have to keep within ourselves, and we're going to carry ourselves well, and we're going to be thankful that we're here.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So I wanted to get to something that we talked about earlier. At the end of the interviews, I always talk about like what we can do to grow the sport. And one of the things that we were talking about before is the live stream. So how do you think that the live stream has affected, or has it had a positive impact? And what are your thoughts about the live stream going forward? Do you want to keep it? Do you think we should get rid of it?
Yeah. So I think I always tell my kids this, that high school sports are one of the best times of your life, because you have this whole community around you. You have this small community of teachers, you have your friends, you have people that have watched these kids. I watch them. I'm a big believer in knowing them when they're little. Like they've watched you since you were little, grow up together. So it's like this sense of when you go to college, it's from all over, and it's not this tight knit community. And I think that community stays with you, and it's not always as recognizable to kids playing. And I've been very open with them. I mean, I was talking to you about how many people are tuning into your games. I show them every message I get from former players, from parents, from a guidance counselor who retired last year. Our superintendent came out to me in the hallway and is watching the games. And I tell them that because it's super important that they understand that they're playing for people who take pride in a community, and you're part of that. I think it's hard to gather that as a 16, 17-year-old, wrap your mind around that. It wasn't something I appreciated until I was out of high school, and didn't really understand it. But I think the fact that I'm showing them like all these people who they know, we have an alumni game every year, not this year, but I mean, they know these kids because they come back, and for them to know that they're tuning into their games. Naj is tuning in Florida. I mean, and she never even played with me or them. Tyler's mom is a huge supporter of our program. I mean, it's just insane. And I think the live stream brings it so where more people can watch your team. And I think the more people that can watch everything about South Jersey girls basketball, the better. And we talked, I'm not somebody that's like, I'm not someone that's like, it's bad to show everybody what you're doing. I think that you need to make adjustments anyway as a coach and a team. I don't play the same way versus one team as I do as the next. So I'm all for putting the film out there. I'm all for keeping it. I'm all for, it's something that kids can have when they're older too. I only have like 4 games on VHS. I know I'm showing my age. But how cool is it that you can actually go on YouTube and like show your kids like what you were a part of, and watch and learn. My kids, to their credit, we don't have tons of time to watch film. They watch film and they watch themselves, and they watch, our games, they watch our opponents' games, and they're into it. And I think the YouTube factor has given it more availability for them. I used to have to like grab them. Kylie is a basketball junkie. Last year in 8th grade, she was almost at every game I was at watching. She was at the Haddon Middle Township game. Mo is the same way. So it's like they have this in front of them now. Mo has said stuff. I'm like, oh my God, you watched that game? Like during practice? She's like, yeah. Like, so just the fact that they can watch it and see their competitors, but also see South Jersey basketball. I mean, I think it's so great that they can know other kids and who they are and what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, we're in it for, we're in it to win, but we're also in it for kids to be the best they can be. And anybody from South Jersey that can go on and compete, or even, be this insane CEO of a company, or this doctor, I mean, or just a phenomenal teacher, or great at something, you know what I mean? Naj is, like I said, NFL filming, like how cool is that? Like, it's just like, we need to showcase this because it's not just basketball. It's this whole community. And I love the South Jersey basketball community. I've built a family. I've made so many, relationships between when I played and who I played against and coaching now. And I think they don't understand that either. And I think this brings awareness to that.
Yeah. I think the other thing is, and we talked about it, number one, for any of the coaches that are listening, it's so valuable because it just gives exposure to your program. So I know that there's, some that are afraid, maybe they're just really tight with their film because they don't want anybody to see it. But in a normal world, they're coming to scout your game anyway. And everybody's trading videos. So whether you're going to get it, I'd rather just, if you want it, just take it at that point.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is colleges are watching. I'm going to give you the perfect example. Gabby, came home and she's like, Dad, Boston University is going to be watching our first game because Alexa's playing. Because normally these coaches would come out to support their players that they've recruited. They can't do that now, but they can easily do it through the live stream. So, those girls that want to play in college, they have coaches that are watching them. This makes it easier for the coaches. You don't have to worry about sending the video. They could watch the video any point they want to. They can refer back to the video. So I think that it's so important just from a recruiting standpoint, that these girls now can just take the YouTube video instead of huddle and making links and all that. Hey, coach, I want to let you know that we played this great game the other day. We played against our division rival. Here's the game, and I actually did really well. I did this, I did that. The team did fantastic. If you want to take a look, here's the film. And I think it gives them a better look, and it gives them the coaches in college, more of a big picture. Because if you only come to one game, if you didn't do well that one game, I think it hurts you. But if they can look at your season over the course, if they're really interested in you, if they can look at your season over the course of the season and watch your growth and development from game to game and from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, I think that's invaluable. So I think we need to do that more.
Yeah, I would agree too. And I would think, obviously I'm hoping that there's fans back, but the fact that there's not, like, it's got to be, I remember as a player, it's intimidating to have a college coach sitting there. So the fact that they're watching, do you know what I mean? You can't really see them, I think helps a little bit. But you're right. I think I've talked a lot with my kids about positives in this situation. Like, let's not focus on the negatives. Let's focus on the positives. And that's definitely one of the positives. If I'm a recruiter and I'm going to see a kid, I can only send me and my 3 assistant coaches to 4 games.
Right.
I could tune into way more games. Like, I know that they're like worried about because kids are staying because of COVID for an extra year and scholarships. But the fact of the matter is they're seeing way more kids. So I do think it's a positive. I think our families want to be there, but I've gotten so much positivity from parents. Like, they want to be there, but they're like, it's kind of cool to stream it in your house. It's kind of cool that it's like, if you have a little brother or sister, Mo has like a little 2-year-old at home, like thinks they're on TV. Like, like it's so cute to bring that to people's living rooms is cool too. Cause someone who wouldn't watch is probably going to hop in and watch.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, she's got a 2-year-old, we have Olivia and Christian who are 4 and 6. They don't sit still at the games. So half the time, if Kim and I are going to the game, watch.
I know.
Kids, they're fighting with each other. They're running underneath the bleachers. At least they can play in their house. We can set something up for them to play in their bedroom. They can watch. If they want to, they can play their toys, but we can watch the game and we can actually enjoy it a little bit. We can feed them their food.
Yeah.
We don't have to bother anybody. Like, half the time, over the other parents, and I'm like,
Yeah, but your kids are so cute though. They're so cute.
I know, but it's like, it's tough.
I know.
So-and-so that's watching their kid play, and then all of a sudden my kids are jumping in their lap asking for candy or something like that. I don't know. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think just staying positive is important. Like I said, taking what you can get, being positive is definitely different.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, used to an empty gym now. Like, it's gonna be weird to have it back. It was weird at first, but
I think the energy from the full gyms, and I think that people are they're going to know the teams better now, because in years past, you only figure if you're your team, if you didn't follow them, you follow them at playoff time. But if you're able to watch a lot of games to catch up, like, how most people that are not in the sports, they binge watch like a series of TV show, like I don't know, like anything on Netflix. But now, like I told you, like I was binge watching a lot of the games, and I'd watch them as they go because it's just fun to see the kids play. And I'd much rather watch the girls in South Jersey play basketball than I would want to watch the NBA. Like, I refuse to turn the NBA on because I just feel like we got to support our own, you know what I mean? And I'd rather, if I'm going to spend an hour of my time, I want to see some of the kids I read about in the paper. I want to learn about these kids. I want to be able to support them. And I just think it's cool, you know?
Yeah. And I think like what you're doing is great and getting any exposure to the kids because they're more than basketball players.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're great young women. They're smart, like, you know what I mean? They have ambitions in the future. Some of them are doing insane things with like activism stuff. I mean, just because they're 16 and 17 years old doesn't mean they don't have a voice. And I think learning about that and learning about what kids are doing outside of basketball is also important.
Yeah. My goal is in the future is right now focus on coaches. After the season, maybe focus on, you know, interviewing some players. But I would love to get some players that have played and grown up in, you know, in South Jersey basketball that have gone on to bigger and better things. Whether they're playing professionally, it doesn't matter to me. I want to hear, like you said, you know, if they're working at a company, if they're a teacher, if they're a doctor, if they're a lawyer, like I want them to talk about to the players that are here, you know, how do they make, you know, sports their transition into their field, and how they use that to get to where they wanted to be. I mean, that's one of the toughest
Being an
things.
athlete is a huge advantage for getting a job. I mean, and they should use it to their advantage because I mean, athletes are some of the most competitive people out there. They know how to work hard. They know how to make adjustments. I mean, anything you're going to do, you're going to want to do well at. So like, I think that showcasing how they learn that through high school athletics and youth athletics in our towns and college is great.
Yeah. I mean, the competitive nature, they're coachable, they can work with others. I mean, these are all qualities that, you know, some people are lacking. You might have an intelligent person that becomes a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or whatever, and they can't work well with others. I mean, that person's going to have a tough time being successful in life, just because you need other people to survive. You have coworkers, you know, sometimes you have, depending on the job that you're doing, you're relying on them in the trenches, you know, during important things. And if you can't rely on those people, if you can't gel, if you can't figure out how to cooperate into work, I think it's going to be very difficult for you to become successful. So I think, you know, these young ladies, you know, obviously is our focus, but this is athletes in general. I think that they have that networking too, that they can reach out to others. So
and I think it's important too to realize you're not always the best at everything.
Yeah.
And you have to use other people's skills. You shouldn't be jealous of them. You should use them to help you. So I think being a student athlete is one of the best things you could possibly be, any sport you're playing and anything. I think it's invaluable to what you learn.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully in the future, you know, when we revisit these podcasts, you know, because you know, my kids are going to be in sports and things forever because of the two little ones. You know, I'd love to see the growth of the sport. I think it's come a long way. But, you know, unfortunately, South Jersey is just so spread out and the communities really aren't super tight. Certain areas are tighter than others, like, you know, your area with Haddon Heights, Haddon Township, Collingswood, Haddonfield, you know, Sterling. They're all the towns are so close together. You could ride your bike or walk to the next town.
And those kids know each other too. Do you know what I mean? They do hang out outside of school. They know each other, which is great.
Yeah, where here it's kind of
you're like,
because they're more spread out. And if you go to Gloucester County, Salem, and Cumberland County, they're so spread out. I mean, they're not really near the neighboring towns. So I think we gotta find a way to get those kids together and give them opportunities. For the kids that want to play, let them come. I mean, I would love to do, like I said, pick up basketball, you know, and live stream it and, you know, make it fun for everybody. You know, like you said, get a couple refs, you know, if they want to have the kids chip in a couple of dollars or maybe raise money for a charity or something that's going on, but use their you know, their talents in a way that can impact the community, which is great. So I just want to say thanks. This is fun. I loved catching up with you. You know, Gabby and Sophia, I've always loved seeing you guys.
I know, I love your kids.
Games and going to the camps growing up, and that's cool. You know, and now to finally see all these kids that they grew up with and they're successful. It just shows you that the hard work you put in as a coach, you know, it makes a difference later. You know, and you're seeing it now and you're going to see it into the future. And I think it's just fantastic. So thank you so much.
Yeah, the more people that support the kids, the better. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be for my school. I'm all for South Jersey basketball.
All right, Coach Kendra, have a great day.
You too.
Bye.